A Voyage to Lilliput, Chapter 4. After gaining his freedom, I asked the Emperor for permission to visit Mildendo, the capital city of Lilliput. He agreed, but warned me to be careful not to harm any people or damage any buildings. Before my visit, a public announcement was made so everyone would know I was coming. The city was surrounded by a wall that was only about 2.5 feet high. I easily stepped over the main gate and carefully walked through the streets. To avoid damaging the houses, I wore only my short waistcoat instead of my full coat. The streets were empty because everyone had been ordered to stay indoors for their own safety. However, the windows, rooftops, and balconies were crowded with people eager to see me. The city was laid out in a perfect square and was full of houses, shops, and markets. Although everything was tiny compared to me, it was clearly a busy and prosperous place. In the center of the city stood the Emperor's palace. It was surrounded by another wall, and although I had permission to enter the grounds, I could not fit through the palace gates. I wanted very much to see the inside of the palace, so I came up with a plan. I spent 3 days cutting down some large trees in the royal park and used them to make 2 strong stools. Carrying them back to the palace, I carefully placed one stool inside the palace grounds and used the other to climb over the buildings. By moving from one stool to the other, I eventually reached the inner court. There, I lay on my side and looked through the palace windows, which had been opened especially for me. Inside, I saw magnificent rooms decorated with great beauty. I also saw the Empress and the young princes with their attendants. The Empress smiled kindly at me and even allowed me to kiss her hand through the window. About 2 weeks later, Reldrizal, the principal secretary for private affairs, came to visit me. He arrived with only one servant and asked if he could speak with me privately. Since he had often helped me at court, I gladly agreed. Reldrizal explained that although Lilliput appeared strong and successful, the empire faced 2 serious problems. The first was political division within the country. 2 rival groups, known as the High Heels and the Low Heels, had been arguing for many years. They disliked each other so much that they would not even eat, drink, or speak together. The Emperor supported the Low Heels, and only Low Heels were allowed to hold important government positions. However, the High Heels were actually more numerous, and many people secretly supported them. The second problem was a growing threat from the neighboring empire of Blefuscu. For many years, Lilliput and Blefuscu had been at war. Surprisingly, the conflict had begun over a disagreement about the proper way to break an egg before eating it. Long ago, people traditionally cracked eggs at the larger end. But after an accident involving a prince who cut his finger while breaking an egg, a law was passed requiring everyone to break eggs at the smaller end instead. Many people refused to obey this law. Some rebelled. Others fled to Blefuscu, and the disagreement eventually grew into a long and bloody war. Reldrizal told me that Blefuscu was now preparing a large fleet and might soon invade Lilliput. Because of my great size and strength, the Emperor hoped I would help defend the kingdom. I replied that I did not wish to become involved in the political disputes of a foreign country. However, I was willing to risk my life to protect the Emperor and his people from any outside attack.